10 U.S. cities on the brink of collapse. But here's the twist. 8 of the 10 are run by Democratic mayors. Coincidence?
You're my boy, Blue!
Cities like Portland, Milwaukee, and Baltimore are crumbling under the liabilities and mismanagement.
Greed is right. Greed works.
Today we're going to uncover the stunning truth behind the financial collapse of these 10 U.S. cities. Do you know your own city's financial health? Actually, below in the comment description, I have great resources there if you want, of course, an agent referral. But even a better resource today, folks, is I've got, it is the good folks over at Truth in Accounting. It is their kind of state of the cities, financial state of the cities report, where I got some of this great information for this video today. There are 65 other cities in there. If your city isn't mentioned here, or if you're thinking about relocating to another city, check out that resource. And maybe even a better question is, do politics, so let's get a little spicy, do politics play a role in cities' future accounting?
Spicy!
Now let's be respectful. For both those questions, I want you to comment below once you kind of know, you may not know, your city's health, and does politics play? Keep it respectful as much as possible. But let's get some engagement. Those are really two major questions. Now let's start with number 10 here, which is going to be Pittsburgh. Hypocrite alert. Hypocrite alert. Hypocrite alert. I can't say that fast. Okay. If you've been watching some of my previous videos, I just did a video that included Pittsburgh, underrated cities, 10 underrated cities that you got to, have on your radar. And from the economy, private economy, private sector, jobs, you got biohealth care, information, medicine. I mean, Pittsburgh is top notch. Got some facts I'm gonna rattle off here. Tax burden, right? And that is calculated with the outstanding liabilities when you add assets and liabilities. Assets to reduce the liabilities that are available on hand. Any unfunded pension, particularly with of course, the great firefighters and police officers need those. We need those core services, and they need to be taken care of. They're very expensive. So you add those liabilities against what is available with the current population. Most recent here, the Truth in Accounting used 2022 info. It's 13,000 per taxpayer, right? And if they're reducing population, those are just the taxpayers. Every taxpayer leaves, that number goes up. 13,200 is crazy. You have a property tax rate of 1.87. This is an estimate. And a little later in the video, I'm going to be talking about the questionnaire that you can fill out. I can find you if you still want to go and move to Pittsburgh. I'm going to say this repeatedly through the video, folks. I can find you the realtor who can give you more specific information, but 1.87 factor, if you're going to get a condo in the city, it could be $400,000 or $500,000. That adds up really quickly. So you have the increasing property rates. You got to pay for that shortfall. They're not going to go down. You have the current tax burden. Luckily, it didn't make the University of Illinois at Chicago, right, my hometown report, corruption report, but 2 out of 3. So you can be an underrated city. It's still a city I would definitely consider. Vibrant city life. They've got great public transit. But with that tax burden, folks, right, it's going to be tough to be able to fund future improvements. And so the public transit may deteriorate unless some solutions, some really, really tough decisions, leadership, the politics have to be put off on the side. The leadership there in Pittsburgh have to make some really tough decisions. But it's the number 10. Coming in at number 9, Baltimore. Baltimore, also I featured in an urbanism prior video. I'll have it linked either in the description or over up in the card. I mean, Orioles Park, Ravenswood, Ravens, where the Ravens play with football, baseball. You live in the city. It's outstanding. I mean, who doesn't like crabs, right? I guess unless you're a vegan or vegetarian. But you're going to need a lot of money to buy those crabs. The amount of what the tax burden is per taxpayer, $14,000, just over $14,000, based upon current current population trends. 1.65 tax rate, which in order to again fund similar to Pittsburgh that burden, I don't anticipate those going down. Good news, not on the corruption list, but Baltimore made it number 9. With number 8, I mean, Who would want to move to this city where the Brewers play? Of course, they were just killing my Cubs. But that's for another story. Milwaukee comes in here at number 8, a little over 15,000 taxpayer burden. Really surprising property tax rate of 2.34, one of the highest in this list. So you have ever increasing property taxes. You've got a huge burden. A taxpayer burden is not going to go away. So again, difficult decisions need to be made with Milwaukee, and their population is declining too. Again, inserting my bias. Why would you want to move to Milwaukee, right? But no, Milwaukee's a fantastic city. And what's going to get affected first? They're already getting affected. Public transit. So you're that urban, dweller. You're thinking you want something a little less expensive than like my city, Chicago. That is a great alternative. Only 90 minutes away too, so you can easily visit Chicago. But then you're kind of seeing, well, some of the public services may be taken away based upon that taxpayer burden. Money needs to be diverted to other resources. But this is number 8. First to make the corruption list, right? I guess someone's got to get the corruption award, right? But it's not the highest though. But first to make the list is Miami. Welcome to Miami. Nearly 1,300 convictions. This is a University of Illinois. Very interesting. I am also going to have it along with that TIA, the Truth in Accounting report. I will have the what I have of the Illinois, which is mainly focused on Chicago, but there's this table in here. You'll see this graphic. Nearly 1,300 convictions. This is the corruption report. You had a property tax rate under 1%, which, folks, I'm not going to hold too much weight. Let me connect you with a Miami realtor. I've got several outstanding Miami realtors that can get maybe more updated information. But you also, now that seems lower and is lower than the previous 3 cities. But then you're also, the cost of living is just through the roof. One of the most expensive cities to live in the U.S. with median prices well over $400,000. And if you're going to be living in the city proper, living in downtown area, which has the public transit, great public transit, maybe you were talking 700,000-800,000. So then do the math, right? And finally, taxpayer burden, about 15, a little bit slightly more than Milwaukee, 15,500 per taxpayer.
If I've been serving that almighty YouTube algorithm god properly,
Algorithms!
You, the viewer, is looking for a relocation, specifically an urban relocation. So, what I have here is the Agent Referral Questionnaire. It's very simple. Answer a couple of quick questions, and let's schedule a time and date convenient for you to have a very quick discussion to kind of see where your wants and needs are. And then through my extensive network of referral partners through just about every place in our wonderful land of liberty, I can find you that realtor. It all starts, however, with that conversation. So I'm going to have it also linked below on the video that you're watching.
Halfway there, the 10 U.S. cities on the brink of financial collapse. I mean, it's happening. It's happening, folks. New Orleans. New Orleans had a 0.76 tax rate. Home prices are much better than in other cities, so that property tax burden may not affect you. But of course, now insurance, kind of similar to what's happening in Florida, are you even going to get covered? So you're going to have, along with home and the property taxes, you're going to have to worry about not only getting covered, but then the costs associated, insurance costs. So that's just adding more burden. Not to mention that it is 18,000, just over 18,000 per taxpayer is the burden. And of course, the trifecta, it made the corruption list. 756 convictions, 1976, all the way through 2021 was when the data collected. So this is number 5 on that list. This is New Orleans. Coming in here, number 6, Portland, right? Coming through the pandemic and out of the pandemic, just a hot, super scorching hot housing market, and that hasn't really let up. You can see here the tax rate's not too bad, but then you're applying it against higher home prices, so that's going to be a major cost. That property tax is going to keep going up. Very high taxpayer burden, over 20K. It's not on the corruption list, which is good. So and they've been talks there. I've never visited. I'd be curious, folks, I mean, and don't know trolls. I know there's going to be trolls, but truly, what is the homeless situation in Portland? I want Portlandiers, that's what you call yourselves, to comment below. Let me know if it's truly, because I mean, here at big city, Chicago, we have it. It's unfortunate. But tell me if it's really, really as bad as people are saying in the media. But this made the list here. That 20,000 is rough. 20,000, decent tax rate, but again, you're applying against higher home prices. Brotherly love time. Philly made the list, right? So 20,000 taxpayer burden, and it is a relatively larger city, and great public transit. So with biking and walking, so that's kind of that cost benefit you're going to have to establish. Just under, we get 0.95 tax rate against home prices, which will maybe elevated if you want to have those creature comforts living closer in the city core. And it did make the corruption list, just over 1,000, again from 1976 to 2021, of convictions. So people putting their hand in that cookie jar too many times. It does that holy trinity there of corruption, property taxes are going to continue to rise, and taxpayer burden. This is Philadelphia. Just like a gorgeous woman can rob you blind, we've got Honolulu on the list. All that beauty, right, kind of sucks you in and then robs you blind. 24,000 taxpayer, the burden per taxpayer. The tax rate was very, very low. So this is one of those things I can definitely connect you with Honolulu, Main Island, a Realtor, to kind of get more clarity on that, to understand the tax. But that's going to keep going up. You got to pay for all that beauty. Things cost. Everything costs more. And food farther away. It did make the corruption list, which is good, but you're gonna have to really, and of course, right? There's not much in public. You have bus, right? And of course, biking. You have gorgeous weather and walking, but as far as getting around, you're gonna need a car, but it's really not that big. So that's kind of one of those trade-off things. You got a great job, you don't mind, but as politicians kick that can down the road, people want to say, why is this such a high tax burden? Politicians kicking the can. They want to maintain their power. They want to make the difficult decisions, but they have to make those difficult decisions. They don't want. They're going to kick it down the road. And then who is going to ultimately suffer? You, the taxpayer. Some of the highest property taxes in the nation, highest unfunded pension liability. You got to pay to play. My city, I still love it. Chicago makes number 2 on the list. Probably should be 1. And by now you know what number 1 is, but makes number 2 on this list. Corruption, number 1, right? It's number 1 on the corruption report. 1,800. I could probably do a video just on the corruption here in my wonderful city, but I won't, because I may cry. 2.1% tax rate. Which it is the main lever that our wonderful mayor, Brandon Johnson, which thankfully the city council at this point coming here in December 2024 shot down. He wanted 300 more million through property taxes, which is just like, for my place, I'm just getting taxed to death almost. So very high property taxes are going to continue to escalate. Taxpayer burden, 42, it means it's like someone's salary. Hardworking individual salary, 42,000. Taxpayer burden, rising property taxes, this pension liability just hanging over like a cloud. But that's number 2, Chicago, and of course number 1. Hey, we're number 1 finally, not the second city. Number 1 on the corruption report. As always, this this city's always number 1, right? Just about everything. New York. Almost 1,400 on the corruption list. It wasn't number 1 because of Chicago, as I just mentioned, was number 1. Nearly 1,400 from, again, 1976 to 2021. 1.925 tax rate, which with, again, is very, very, very expensive housing. And the the taxpayer burden of 61K. Talk about kicking the can down the road. So I have no idea what New York can do. But it just seems like all these cities have a balanced budget, which is just very, very, I guess, creative accounting. This is number one, New York, New York.